Any comments or conversation regarding the minutes of either of those meetings? Okay.
My only comment is our intern back for our minutes?
We have a new intern here. This might
like
be
that,
this might be a very good opportunity here. Lindsay, come on up here.
I noticed the minutes were a little different this time.
Yeah, so yes, we've got Lindsay Duggan as our community development intern here for the summer, and been working on a variety of things, including the Makers Market and doing minutes and working on a big parking study that we're doing over the summer. So there'll be more information coming in that in the future. So that is Lindsay.
Nice to meet you, Lindsay. Welcome.
Nice
We're
minutes,
happy to have you.
Lindsay. Nice minutes.
Excellent. Okay, I guess I will take a motion to approve minutes. Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving both sets of minutes from the June 13th and 24th meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, motion carries. On to bills.
And to bills. A couple of bills last month. We had a few items related to 213 Ramsey Street. We had some legal research done on the deeds as far as ownership goes that was a little more extensive than we anticipated happening, but we do have a clear idea of ownership of certain aspects of it, which is good. So that's most of what we had last month, as well as a bill from Electra Watchman for some security upgrades at that building as well.
Okay, any questions on bills? All right, we need a motion to approve those?
Yes.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
all right, all in favor of approving bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. On to business.
Thank you, Mr. President. HEDRA members, tonight we have before you a resolution authorizing termination of a purchase and development agreement with River Cities for the sale of property at the northwest corner of 3rd and Tyler Street. You may recall that we entered into this agreement in 2022 at the time. The River Cities company is represented by Luke Seward. Luke at the time had proposed a 32-unit apartment building. The terms of the agreement that we established at that time were that we would sell the property to Luke for $1. Some of the requirements prior to closing would be that he obtain the land use approvals from the city council, as well as ensure that the financing for the project was whole so that it could be a go. And so that was the terms of the contract. We signed that in 2022, had a couple subsequent amendments that occurred during that time. Luke has obtained the approval by the city council for the 32-unit building, did that in 2022 as well, and that is still valid today. About a year ago, we had a similar request to extend the approvals and the agreement for Mr. Seward. At that time, the HEDRA did vote to approve it. There was some discussion, I believe, either during or after the meeting that this might be the last time that we do this, that we wanted to make sure that we saw some progress on the building during that time period. So over the last year, we met a couple of times with Mr. Seward. I think right around August and September of last year, we had a few meetings, and then up until yesterday, the last meeting we had was March of this year. At this point, I don't have a lot of information on the project. We don't have updated financial information on it to ensure if the project is viable or not. Mr. Seward would like to move forward with the project. I don't have a lot of more to say as far as evidence of the project being a real project or not. So I'm torn on this one. As I put the report together, I hadn't had any contact with Mr. Seward for a number of months. And so I was looking at putting together a termination of the contract. In my mind, there's part of me that thinks that this project is not going to happen. We've had a couple of years, and we have not had any progress on it, substantial on this one. Luke has explained this has been a tough project, a tough market. I understand that, but the reality is it has not happened at this point. So I'm torn between whether we terminate the contract or whether we move forward with it. I don't know if the project is feasible. I haven't seen numbers for it at this point. So I've invited Mr. Seward here tonight to explain where he's at with the project and have an opportunity for you to ask any questions for him. A couple of options that the board may have tonight. One is to move forward with the resolution within the packet which is to terminate the agreement itself. By terminating the agreement, it does not preclude Mr. Siewert from working on the property. He may come back with another plan for development, and we could enter into a new agreement on it. So it doesn't end the road for him, but it does end the agreement at this time. That might be an option for you to consider. The other may be an extension of the agreement for a certain period of time. The opportunity to do that, or the vote necessary to do that by our bylaws, would require a majority of all HEDRA members. So we need at least 4 members to vote in favor of that to do so. In doing that, there may be a specific time period that's established for that as well. So that's the options that we have before you tonight. And at this time, unless you have any questions, I'd invite Luke Siewert up here to provide detail on the project and where it sits.
Is it this one? Or? Oh, sorry, thank you. Thanks for having me, everyone. So I know a lot of you are familiar faces because I've been coming here for quite a while, like John said, and I appreciate the extensions I've been provided up to this point. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, the project actually started before 2020. So kind of that's when I was kind of putting together a time frame of kind of how this all went. And looking back, the first concept plan was back in 2020. And to get approvals from HEDRA and the city, we roughly took 19 months. So part of my fear is if I lose these approvals, it's going to be difficult to get those back on this specific project. And I know John said it will still be open for development, but I'm too invested in this specific project that I just don't foresee myself looking at an alternative option, because I've spent time beyond 2020 to put this together, and obviously we're here today and a lot of money spent as well. And the property I currently have, I'm of course losing money on that too, but by doing that I have confidence that this is still going to move forward. So the last time I was here to ask for that extension, so going back to the original approval in 2022, I was moving forward with the build. We were going through the building permit process and everything, and the numbers I initially had prior to obtaining all my architectural plans to that by the time we had the building permit, that cost jumped $3 million, which is why I had to kind of take a step back. Throughout the next 2 years, I've been working on this almost weekly, and it's difficult because on something like this, I can't continue to send it out for pricing because it kind of gets overstimulated in the market and not enough has changed. So as you all know, like we kind of went through this time with COVID, and a lot of the COVID stuff kind of extended into the last few years, and we were hoping to see the effects of that go away more recent than they had. And so last October 23, I had it priced out again. And mind you, this takes months for these contractors to get this pricing back, so it took a while. That pricing came in better than 2 years prior, but not significant enough to make it work. So it came down $700,000, which was good, but at that same time, rates were going up, so it kind of offset that anyways. Here in January, I sent it out to another contractor because contractors now this year have been approaching me, which previously was somewhat difficult to get in touch with them, but people are now looking for work. So I've been approached by numerous contractors, and this one, through a mutual friend, had just completed a project very similar in size in Elko New Market, so somewhat of a familiar neighborhood type deal, and the pricing for that came in significantly better than what I was seeing, so I went with them to go price it out. We're meeting on July 23rd to go over that pricing, but of course this meeting was prior to that, so I reached out to the president of the company and just to see where the preliminary numbers, because they have most of them back right now, and that pricing came in at 1.3 lower than the pricing in October. So it is trending in the right direction. I wouldn't continue doing this with these contractors, and these contractors wouldn't be doing this either if they weren't thinking this is going to be a feasible project. So I've brought my dad and uncle into it a little bit too to try to help partnership, just to kind of offset maybe some options we have to look at. But with that being said, things take time too. I was kind of trying to put together a time frame of, we had that meeting on the 23rd. It'll probably be a month because we're going to go over the numbers, of course, try to make any necessary revisions. But we look at the plan too with each contractor to see if there's some value engineering options we can do to help, reduce costs. So that should take only a month or so. But then from there, I'll have to meet with my financial advisor to then put these new numbers into the pro forma, kind of see where the numbers are coming out. They will be better than last time, but of course I got to see with the new rents and see where the numbers are lying. If things look good, of course, go to financing at that point. If there's still a gap, look at alternative financing, one being a potentially TIF financing, which, talking to Alex and John, that process can take up to 90 days to try to obtain TIF. So there's other options out there too that I've explored these last 2 years. And then once you get to the lending side, that of course is going to take roughly 60 days to get appraisal and go through that part. I'll have to meet with Xcel Energy again. I've already done that. We've executed the plan. We have it all in place for the overhead power lines. It's just revisiting that plan, making sure nothing has changed on their end since we've put that together. And then if we send out for final pricing beforehand, that's roughly 45 days. And then I've already had the asbestos test done to the property, so I have to, of course, demolish that. But that shouldn't be too long. And some of this stuff can overlap, of course. It's just making sure the project is ready to go forward and then applying for the building permit, which can take time too. So I know keep asking for these extensions probably is a nuisance, but it's things that just takes time and just kind of talking with people in this industry. Not all projects like this from start to finish go quickly, and I feel like I've picked a poor time to make this jump, and I've, of course, now seeing you guys many times, and you realize why. But like I mentioned, these contractors that are approaching me wouldn't be doing so if they didn't think this was feasible, and I wouldn't continue keeping, the property I own is a rental property, so I'm losing, 2 incomes and still paying property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. I have to plow, lawn care, and so I wouldn't have given up that large income over 2 years if I didn't think this had a chance. And like I had mentioned, I'm very invested into this specific project, so I can't look elsewhere right now for different development if I lose these approvals. So it puts me in a tough spot because I'll be kind of stuck with this property, and which is fine, but I would have to then revisit the idea of fixing it up and then returning it to what I was using it as, which was a duplex, because I'm just too deep into this financially and time that I have to hopefully see it through. And that's why my fear is if I lose this lot, of course I can come back to you, but going to these contractors and financing and all these aspects without having a plausible lot to build on, it's difficult for them to move forward with what they want to do because I have essentially at that point nothing to build on. So that's my fear of if we lose this, it's kind of putting an end to this. Of course, I won't completely give up, but it just puts me in a more difficult position because right now it's ready, and if the numbers begin to work, I can then, of course, move forward. So that's why I'm here again today to ask for the extension. And, I would be completely understanding if the lot that I'm trying to obtain had other development uses, but right now, kind of talking to them without my lot or the lots next door, it's hard to develop what we all want on that block. So I would understand, removing the approvals if there was a better use for that, if someone else was bringing another project in. But I'm trying what I can with this project, and just know I haven't been sitting on my hands these last few years. I've been working on this longer than I probably should, but it's something I believe in, and I know it would be an asset for down there. So that's kind of what I have for you today.
Okay, Mr. President, I just have one clarification to make on some of the information that Luke had shared with us, and that's the issue of tax increment financing. Just want to clarify, from a staff standpoint, we've made no commitment towards tax increment financing towards this. Luke has brought that up in the past. Wasn't brought up in the meeting we had yesterday. There may be a gap in there, but we have not pledged. We have not seen numbers. Frankly, it's not on the table right now. We'd have to see what the numbers are and what the gap is.
So just for clarification then, from 2020 price to the price you just got, which was rough.
Yep.
You're still up $1 million.
So the original 2020 price?
Because you were up $3 million, then you went down 7, then you went down 1.3. So you should be still up $1 million.
Yeah, let me see here. I can pull it up here right now. I have all the pricing with me. It's tough because the rough numbers I got for this July meeting didn't include soft costs, which is just the construction numbers. So let me see. So from the original numbers, it's roughly up 700,000,
Okay.
close to that.
And then you'll plug those into the pro forma and see what it looks like?
I have not done so yet.
But that's the plan?
That-
is to
that will
plug
be the
those
plan,
in?
yep.
Okay.
And
then-
that when I was using these original numbers in 2022, my rents were much lower at that time too, because since then, of course, the building down here has since gone up and the ones near Colburn. So using those rent scales, that part has changed significantly too. So although the project cost has gone up some, so have the income using in the pro forma as well, so.
How long do you figure it would take to put that into the pro forma and see what it looks like?
Yeah, so I think the next month, once I meet on July 23rd to review the pricing, kind of go over details of the plan, that should only take roughly a month. And then I've been working with a financial advisor who is very heavily involved in the multifamily world and has done thousands of these performers. So I've been leaning on him. So he would help me, and it shouldn't take long to get that put in and see where things are at.
Thank you.
Luke, just wondering, do you have an idea of like how much time you're actually asking for on an extension?
So looking at all this, it's bringing us into spring. And ideally that would be the start time of construction, but with some of these, there's contingencies like the Excel portion of it and the financing portion. I don't know how long that will take because things have changed since I originally applied for financing when we first started this project. So some of these numbers are rough estimates of 60 days, 90 days, that sort of thing, but it's bringing us to spring, which we could certainly look for like a spring date, but I was thinking closer to a summer date just so I'm not coming to you asking for one more month or that sort of thing. But yeah, working through it with my dad, we were coming into like that April, May range of would be our target start time, but with a few unknowns, it could linger into closer to like that June 1st range.
Would there be some key milestones that you think you could hit at certain dates? Just so if it comes off the rails, we would know before a full year goes by?
Yes, and I don't have what those dates would be. I could certainly share that with you.
Understood. I know
Yeah,
this is short.
it's been kind of I
Whirlwind.
just got these numbers late yesterday and I've been trying to put things together, but I could certainly put something together and send it over to kind of show you. But of course, you're probably looking for it today, but
I guess one question for staff. So the existing agreement terminates August 1st, is that
Correct.
accurate?
It-
And if we take no action tonight, is it just dead on August 1st?
It
We don't
would
need to
be.
do any,
And I should qualify that by saying that by August 1st, a couple of things need to occur. One, financing needs to be proven for the project, and two, a closing date for the property needs to be established. So we're a ways away on that at this point.
I would turn to staff now and say, you know, if we build an agreement with, around some of the parameters that we're talking about, meeting milestones, doing things like that. Two questions. What do you need from Mr. Seward now that you really don't think you're getting, possibly? And can this work for staff if we develop something like this?
Yeah. Commissioners, I'm perfectly fine in extending the agreement if you choose to do so. I would ask that there be milestones established within that and that we're in more constant communication than we have been. There's been times where we've been ghosted for months and we don't know what's going on with this project, which leads me to believe that this is something that may not happen, and I'm not confident that it will. However, I understand Mr. Seward has put time into this project. If we do an extension on that, I really believe we need to have milestones within there. And I guess that's my 2 cents of it.
Your Honor, thank you. John and Alex, I guess this is kind of a follow-up to Commissioner Hirsch's question. What extra cost would it be for the city to extend the contract? Would there be, like, how much extra staff time does that include?
Not too much extra staff time. We would have some legal staff time in drafting the agreement to do so, but that would be the extent of it, other than the monitoring of the project and meeting and so forth on that, you know. Certainly, we're in a position in which we want to meet with individuals that want to provide economic projects to the city itself. But there becomes a certain time in projects in which the meetings do not seem to carry much fruit with it, and the opportunities for something to occur become much more limited.
Can I add something here too? And I just want to go back to some of these delays too, and the communications things. It's not that I'm not working on the project, it's just things hadn't changed with the project. So, I'm very heavily dependent on the market conditions, and we're waiting on rates as everyone else is, and was waiting on these construction costs. And to me, to continue to bombard these contractors when knowing they weren't changing, it's difficult. So I know it's taking time, but if I could speed it up, I would love to, but I'm heavily dependent on what the market's doing. And so that's the difficult thing, and I'm happy to add milestones in, but it's that part that I'm waiting on which I'm now seeing, which is the positive thing is, from October of last year to now, to see it drop 1.3 million is quite significant on this size of project. So this is what we've been waiting for, and we weren't seeing that the last year plus. So we were still trying to figure out different ways to finance or do things to make things work, and it just wasn't. And so we just were unable to move it forward. But with this, there's optimism. There's, of course, still barriers, but that was part of it, why it was taking so long to kind of move things along.
So if you plug this in and everything looks good in the pro forma, when do you break ground?
There's the financing option, so I got to get through that part first and kind of see where those. So if the numbers on my paperwork, I have to then find the lender that will move forward with it. So then it still would probably be a spring target date, because I won't have everything ready for this fall. That's just too quick to move, especially because the first thing that has to happen is the Xcel Energy power lines, and they have to go underground, and it's all bedrock. So it's a significant project on their end. And last time I was doing this, we were shooting for a target date of June, and I approached them in January. And so from January, their earliest scheduled date was June. So that's something that, fortunately, we already have the design, because that took a long time and was very costly, but that has been done already. So they have that portion. So it shouldn't take 6 months, but it's still dependent on their workload. And there's just too many winter costs with some of that stuff that it just wouldn't be feasible to start this winter. So it'd still be a spring start date if things are looking good, and unless things moved along faster and we had a year like last year where the weather was fine, then it could be different. But
Follow up to that then, if you plug it in and it doesn't work, given that you can't continue to go back to contractors,
Yeah.
when then could you go back to get that rebid?
Fortunately, there's some ways they can do it just off of projects they're currently working on. So there's ways that they've provided me estimates along the way that I haven't send it out to all the contractors. So over the course of the last year plus, that's what I've been kind of leaning on, is reaching out to these 6 different contractors, just saying, could you put a quick snaps of the pricing, and then if we started seeing a trend down, then I would make the move to kind of say, push this out and send it now to contractors to get actual numbers. And so this most recent one, so I could do that at any time, because a lot of these contractors are willing to do that right now. It's just, I've been told, and I have family in the industry of some of these subcontractors, that if they continue to see the same project come across their desk every other month, and they're not seeing it go up, then it could be a detriment to the project too. So,
Sure, thanks.
so I would be a little hesitant to send it out right away again, but hypothetically, if these numbers are close or work, we would be then getting final numbers, in a few months from now, and they'd be sending it out for contracts at that point.
Luke?
Yeah.
And I was here a year ago when
Yeah.
you came and talked about needing an extension to make this project work. And you're saying now, with what the preliminary financing is and what you think the cost of construction will be, that if we say, yep, go ahead, and we'll continue to carry this project along, that you can be shovel-ready to start something when?
My target would be spring
Spring when?
of next year, 2025. So,
Okay. So I'm kind of looking and saying, okay, this project has been hanging how long with the city before I came here? And is it doing the city the benefit of continuing on an unsure process moving forward? I hear what you're saying, and I understand the need to lock this in and keep it locked in for a while longer. But without some data points, something like Mr. Hinsman talked about before that wasn't happening, where there's lack of interaction between yourself and the city, it's like, that makes me leery to say, okay, let's have another extension. And so far, what I've heard tonight, I'm not confident that we should move ahead. But, you know, if there's some way that this project looks like it's going to succeed, and there's going to be a limited extension with some checkpoints in the way along this process, be it 6 months or a year. But, you know, you have to commit to that in order to say, okay, this is going to be a project that will work. And I guess right now, talk some more, because I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and I can say this till I'm blue in the face. Truthfully, the COVID took a huge impact on this industry, not just now with the rates, but it was unprecedented. I helped my dad on their project that opened 3 years ago, and I was closely linked to that entire project. And from that date of opening in 2020 till now, that whole industry has changed. And I was working with a local developer here, and since then I've branched to probably the biggest developers in the metro area, and they've all told me this is unprecedented. Everything's different. The process of how they do things are different. So they say, you're not the only one. Everyone is dealing with this right now. So I know it's taking a long time, and it looks poorly on my part, but it's due to outside factors. And just talking with other projects, developers, they're very sympathetic and say, you know, it was just very poor timing, but that happens, and you have to hang on to this, because I'm this invested, you know, close to $500,000. So the commitment's there on my end, and I've been putting the work in to get this off the ground. I wouldn't continue to do this if I didn't believe in it. So I understand where you're coming from. We need to see movement, but without the numbers changing, I can't fabricate that to make it more, you know, plausible for me to get this off the ground. So I am frustrated too, and I understand your standpoint, and I'm just trying to look at the alternative. If we do lose this, then I know we still want development on that corner, but I would still have to keep that property to now recoup what I have into this project. So it would be a while for me to even consider looking at different development outside of this project, because it's just of how long and consuming this has been. But not that I'm not open to that, but I'm just saying this is my focus right now. So, but I understand it's been a while, so.
So I do have a question about, because when we're looking at the unprecedented times, which I agree with you, material prices, everything, labor prices have skyrocketed, but we have had a considerable number of multifamily units go up in town.
Yeah.
Is this because of the size of your building
So
versus
there's-
the other buildings are, I mean, they're going up, no problem.
Yep.
So I don't really understand then why
Yep.
this one is not working.
Part of it's the developers. They're a much bigger group, so they have more backing. And then like the one down here, it's unit size. They're a story higher than this, and you know, we're able to fit more units into that site than I was able to, so more income on that part of it. So there is building factors. They got in at the time when rates were before they were heading up, so they kind of hit that niche when I was trying to, but my building costs just came in too high, and I think we sent it out just a hair too late and didn't get enough contractors so they hit that pocket. I know the other one is building right now, and I can certainly try to reach out to that developer to say, what are you doing differently? But I think some of it is the size of the group that's building it. They just have a little bit more collateral to use. And but the one comparable for downtown here, it's some of those factors I'm sure played into it a little bit. But
Got a couple of different questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, you know, based on the other units that have gone up in town, have you kept a pulse on what occupancy rates are and what demand looks like?
So I've reached out to the one down here, and I haven't heard back yet. I had been in contact with Mr. Sendel while construction was taking place, because I was fielding a lot of the calls, I think, from people thinking it was my building, so I wanted to help direct them to the right person. So started connecting with him, trying to be on the same page, being it's a similar style project, and we're going to be very close if mine goes up. So the communication was good early on. Tried to reach out recently just to see how things are going, and I haven't heard anything. I plan to view them because just viewing from their site, it's very comparable to what I'm trying to propose too. Slight differences, but no, I have not. And with that being said, I would probably have to do a revised market study if the numbers work, just because of the surplus of units that have come to town. That just takes into consideration just making sure there's still a need for it, and most lenders will probably require that at this point. But I won't. That's quite costly as well, so I don't want to do that prior to knowing if it can move forward. So.
Okay. Next question is for you and staff, I guess jointly. If the commissioners were to consider an extension, it might be in the terms of, hey, we want to give you a little time to get together and establish what milestones would look like and when they would be hit and what that agreement could look like if we were to consider moving forward. So we have a little more assurance that things are progressing and staff is getting the check-ins that they need. How much time do you need to put together that list of milestones and propose to the commission to be able to review?
I don't know. I guess I'd have to talk with John and Alex on what those milestones would be that they're looking for. And once I had those, I could go back to whomever that would pertain to, if it's the contractors, lenders, my financing, or how that would take place. So I would need to know what those parameters were and then check in with those.
I really don't know at this point. I mean, I don't have a lot to go off of as far as substantive information and how to establish timeframes. I mean, I can come up with something. I'm not sure if it's going to be reasonable for Mr. Seward at this point. So I'm kind of at a loss for this. But I do like your suggestion of, if we do vote to extend, I would suggest voting to extend this for a limited period of time while we can work out some parameters for a contract extension, as opposed to giving a blanket extension of X time tonight. Now, whether that could be done in the next month, I think I could, but I don't know how much, if there's going to be substantive information that Mr. Seward's going to have in that time.
Yeah, I don't know what that information will be, so a month might work. I don't know if.
Okay.
That's exactly where I was going to go. This is going to go to lawyers, right? I can't imagine. So you're going to have legal time, we're going to have legal time, just to look it over, to make sure we've got the right language in there. I don't know enough about these agreements, how you structure them, so it is moving the project along. You know, there's real consequences to each touch point. That's what I think I hear all of us are looking for if we're going to go forward, that we're building in some real, the practical touch points, practical for Luke, practical for the staff, but, that there's consequences when things don't happen. I don't know how that looks. I think it's going to take some time probably for our staff and Mr. Seward and council to figure that out. Personally, I think that's a good solution for tonight. I think, everybody wants this to work. That
Yeah.
we're all in
I
that
know.
same boat.
Yeah.
It's just, how do we get there? And, dealing with staff's frustrations, which are very legitimate, dealing with your world that you're living with. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Your Honor. I echo Commissioner Hirsch's comments again, and I want to highlight a couple things, Luke. I know John and Alex are incredible at communicating with us, so we know everything we need to know about this project coming in, right? And I think it's very clear that we don't know enough, right? So I think as I move forward with this motion that I'm formulating, part of the parameters need to be open communication.
Yeah.
And I would like to make a motion to extend Mr. Seward's purchase agreement for 60 days. For
Number of days or dates,
yeah, what's
Let's
easier?
just say, right
December
now, we're at
31st.
August 1st. You want to say October 1st, September 1st?
let's say October 1st, 2024. And make sure that, I believe the first milestone is making the milestones, right? And make sure that they are achievable for you and that they're reasonable for Alex and John. The reason that I do believe that this is a good way to go is twofold. Number one, we don't know what else to do with the property right now,
Yeah.
right? And I appreciate that point very much. And you do have a great idea, and we, like Commissioner Hirsch said, we all want to see it succeed. But the second point is back to my first question. I think this is a little bit more substantial staff time, and I want to be careful about our resources with the city, but it's not exorbitant staff time. So I do want to be careful with all of the work that John and Alex pour into our
Yes.
community development, but I would love to see this work.
Yes, thank you.
So that's my motion.
Bef-
Very
bef-
extended.
Before anyone else jumps in, is that proposal something that Mr. Seaver would be amenable to?
Yeah, so that's to extend it just so we can figure out,
And then we intend to move forward with milestones and agreed upon dates and.
got it. Yep.
Yeah, and just for further discussion,
Just at one point of order here, just as we have a motion on the floor,
Yeah.
we should just have a second, then we continue discussion.
Thank you. I'll second that motion.
Seconded.
Yeah, go ahead. So just so we're all clear, what I envision is by October 1st, we have a document in front of us that both parties have come to an agreement with. That's my expectation. There is some additional cost here. There's legal cost. That's not ever insignificant. So we are saying we've got staff time into this, we're gonna have legal into this. So it's really October 1st if there's not a workable agreement. I'm just telling you, you can read the tea leaves where we're going with this thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motions that were just made, by the way, before I ask you to take a vote on it? Any questions on that?
Read the motion. Read the motion, please.
Okay, I will read it. So the motion was made to extend the existing purchase agreement with Mr. Seward on the property downtown here for an extended period of time to October 1st, and at which point we'll have a list of milestones to review. Yes, that we will then determine whether or not we agree to, as a commission, to move forward. So all in favor of approving that motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, motion carries.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business.
Next order of business here, we have a resolution before you, Commissioners, to decertify TIF District Number 5, which is the Napa Auto Parts Store. Now, I went through my files today to try to find a picture of the old Jiffy gas station that was there forever, that was temporally closed for many years, and for some reason I could not find it. But it's a great example of why we do TIF. We had a situation there on that property in which highly visible intersection of 15th and Vermilion Street, old, tired, small gas station, and old house. And with the TIF district, we were able to clean up the site for the gas station, demolish the house, assemble the property, and then Napa came in. As part of the TIF agreement we had with them in 2010, we pledged $128,000 in TIF revenue to the project. We have pledged that revenue, made that, we've met that part of our agreement, so we can close out the TIF district. So what we're doing tonight is asking for this resolution, which would decertify the TIF district and the TIF district, and it would be back as normal. So I can stand for any questions.
Any questions or points of discussion on that? Okay, I'll stand for motions.
I would just say it's kind of nice to see that next to our bank.
Exactly.
And it was, I remember coming to town and that place was temporarily closed for like the first 20 years.
Yes.
So, it was good. You're going to make the motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor of approving the motion to close or end the TIF district, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Commissioners. I need to raise this up. So, just giving a refresher background on the local affordable housing aid, otherwise known as, that's not the end. There we go. Close your eyes. There we are. Local Affordable Housing Aid, also known as LAHA. This was enacted last year. It is a 0.25% sales tax that is in the 7-county metro area. And the intent of it is to help local governments develop and preserve affordable housing. So as we know, there is going to be a joint HEDRA and council meeting on, I believe, the 22nd with the Dakota County CDA to talk about potential uses of those dollars. So I just wanted to give a quick refresher on what the dollars are and what they're meant for. So as I said, it's the sales tax made to help develop and preserve affordable housing. And the funds that are accrued are distributed to both cities and counties. It's determined by a distribution factor, which is updated annually, has a bunch of different things in there that actuaries have to deal with. And this is our factor, 0.7257% of the total amount accrued through the year. So we did just get our distribution total. It is about half of what was estimated. I'm not sure why that was the case. All of the numbers were about 50% lower than what was estimated. So our 2024 distribution total will be just over $114,000, and we will get that distributed into 2 parts, one later this month and then at the end of the year. The funds can only be used for qualifying projects, and the qualifying projects, this is a rough example: emergency rental assistance, funding a nonprofit affordable housing provider such as the Dakota County CDA or other groups like Habitat for Humanity, funding affordable housing construction projects, homeownership or rental, and funding affordable housing rehab projects. And all of these projects must meet AMI, or area median income requirements, that are laid out in the policy. On average, it has to meet 80% AMI or lower for rentals and 115% AMI or lower for ownership opportunities. It's a brand new policy, brand new program. We're all going to have, I think, a lot of growing pains with it. We don't know what the reporting structure looks like for dollars used, things like that. One other thing that the funds can be used for, if there's not a specific project, it can be put into a local, an affordable housing trust fund, so that you can count those dollars as committed and they can sit to build to then be used on future projects. But it's that's all I have from a prepared statement, but I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Is this what we're going to talk about with the CDA
Yes.
next Monday? Same deal, right? Okay, so we really can
This is
use
just,
their expertise to help guide us with where we want to go with the money, right?
yep, this was
Okay.
just more of a refresher on what it is to prep for the meeting with the CDA.
Yeah, with the meeting we have with the CDA, as Alex had pointed out, they're serve as our local housing authority in Hastings as well as most of Dakota County. So they have a good track record of providing the types of services that LAHA funds could be used for. So really the question that's going to be for us is should some or all of the funds that we receive through LAHA be funneled towards Dakota CDA for certain programming? Or do we want to do certain programming ourselves and use the funds for things here? So I want to be able to have a meeting with the CDA to get a better idea of what they might be able to provide, and then we can make some determinations of what we do. The one thing with the LAHA dollars is we've got, I think, 3 years or so that we have until we actually need to spend them. We can hold them for that period of time. So even though we're getting distributions this year, we're not obligated to spend this year. So we've got a little time, but I don't want to wait too long on it.
Quick point of clarification. It's actually, they have to be spent by the December 31st of the 4th year. So we have 1 extra year.
Is this tax going to happen every year then? We're going to get this distribution every year?
Yes.
Is there for a certain amount of time it's in place, or?
I'm not sure. Everything I've seen hasn't mentioned a moratorium on it or anything, so it's in.
Is this a sales tax on
Yeah.
everything in that 7-county?
I believe
Okay.
so, yes. And then there is a separate program for greater Minnesota outside of the metro. It's a similar program.
Thanks.
I don't think that there's a sunset clause in it at all, so I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Other updates? Is that where we're at, I believe?
Yeah, other updates on development things. We did have approval for United Heroes League stadium seating and locker room proposal down at the site on Glendale Road. They are currently have building permits in and hope to get started on that shortly, which is great. Rio Grande Express got a approval by Planning Commission at the last meeting, going to council this Monday. And so that is a property within the industrial park in which we have a sales agreement with them. That sales agreement asks for the closing to take place by the end of this year, so we should be on track to do that. South Oaks 4th Edition, the grading and utilities are in. We have model home permits that are under review right now, so things are hopping over there, which is great. We're going to be kicking off on Monday the Highway 55 Small Area Plan. This is a plan in which we're taking a look at about 400 acres directly west of the city limits as to how it might develop from a land use standpoint. I will clarify again that this is not a plan in which we are looking to acquire property and to annex property, but more putting a plan together that if properties want to come forward to the city to request annexation, that we know what we want. So we'll be starting that out here coming up on Monday. Another important item too is I was able to go through Thorwood at 315 Pine Street about a couple of weeks ago. It's interesting when you take a look at the outside of the building, not much looks like it's happened. It looks the same as it has for a number of months in there. But on the inside, it's different. I was out there probably about a year ago, and there was still a lot of fire-damaged portions of the building. The 3rd floor was still up and tattered, the 2nd floor the same way. He's done a remarkable job of cleaning out the building itself. Probably about 60–70% of the fire damage within the structure is gone. The 3rd floor is gone. He started to rebuild portions of it as well. So things are happening there, a lot more than what you would see driving by. So pleased to see that one, and hopefully that'll continue on. So that's what I've got for updates.
So you said remind me who that is, who's doing the developing?
Sure. Pavel, and I cannot remember Pavel's last name.
Well, thank you,
Yes.
Pavel, because I think I think he's kind of new to the process, and so thank you for taking that on and the work he's been doing. So I think, Thorwood was and is a community gem. It was tragic when I watched it going. I was crossing the bridge when the flames were going up, and I really appreciate the fact that he's doing that. The second thing, Vermilion Acres, I've been asked by multiple people, what is going on with that? Do you have anything I'm sure if you had something, you would tell us, but I'm going to bring it up.
Fair question. I don't have an answer for that one. I did speak with their building official. He hasn't been in contact with them in a couple of weeks, but the last contact he had in questioning time frame for the project was that this was not on their priority list at this time, that they're working on other projects. And so I don't have an answer for that at this time as far as what might be happening next on it, but yeah, it's a little strange.
Any other questions? Okay. Anything else you'd like to cover, staff?
Nope, that's all for me.
Okay. Well, I think with that, I can take a motion to close. All right, all in favor of closing the meeting, signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, nay? All right, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.